Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 20 recent NFL player extensions. Should you extend them or should you not extend them in your Dynasty salary cap leagues? We're here to talk about it.
Hike!
So in this episode, it's going to be a rapid fire, so buckle up. We're going to be talking, like I said, the top 20. So Joe and I are going to just be rattling these off. So let's kick this off, Joe. Number 1. Quarterback Trevor Lawrence, are you extending him or not extending him in your Dynasty salary cap leagues?
Yeah, despite the disappointment of recent years, I think I'd be willing to extend Trevor Lawrence. You got the 5-year extension, change in coach, which I think he could benefit from. And Liam Cohen, got Brian Thomas Jr., who looks like an absolute stud. So I'd have the confidence to go ahead and extend him.
I would agree. Thankfully, you won't have to extend him for the amount the Jaguars did because that's an obscene amount of money. Because of how he's played in fantasy, you could probably get him for a very, very nice discount. But I'll take the upside. I think, like you said, he's got Brian Thomas. He's got some other pieces in that offense. And if you look at the contract, Joe, he's with the Jaguars until at least through the 2027 season. Maybe they pull a Russell Wilson and they're like, this is so bad, we got to get out of it and we're going to cut him. I don't think so. So worst case scenario, Jags fans out there, you're going to be seeing Trevor Lawrence probably as a starter for the next 2 to 3 years. Are you enjoying this episode so far? Well, if you are, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. We do videos throughout the year, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. All right, so number 2, quarterback Jared Goff. Extend or not extend?
This is a tough one.
For you? You're like the Goff, part of the Goff fan club.
Yeah, I know, and I really like Jared Goff. I think I might not extend Jared Goff, just because I'm nervous. Like, I gotta be honest. Like, I am nervous about the fact that Ben Johnson's gone. I'll see if that turns out to be a factor or not with him. But I think that had a lot to do with his potential turnaround. I know he's got a ton of pieces, and that Lions offense should still be high powered, but conversely to Trevor Lawrence, he's been performing really well, and you're going to have to pay the piper on that extension.
Wow. Joe, I never thought I'd hear you say what you're saying right now. I couldn't agree with you more. I definitely would not extend this guy. I've been telling you for a while now, that is a really costly extension. It's going to cost the Lions. I think it would cost, especially how well he just did, you're going to have to pay the farm to do it. Not worth it. Now, as far as his dead cap goes, he's going to be with the Lions probably for the next 2 years. In the third year in 2027, if things got really bad, they could probably get rid of him. But I'm with you. I think Ben Johnson, we're going to find out was he the Mad Hatter behind the offense, or does Dan Campbell still got some juice?
Yeah, that's really, to be TBD here.
All right, so number 3, quarterback Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers. Extend or not extend?
I don't think I'm going to extend him. I'm concerned about Jordan Love. I think he's, a decent NFL quarterback. But as far as fantasy goes, he's kind of up and down. Don't love the, overall weapons that the Green Bay Packers have. We'll see what else that they bring in, because if Christian Watson isn't going to be healthy, they need somebody that's going to be a threat to take the top off the defense.
I'm with you 100%. I'm not extending him either. I think the Packers got a little ahead of themselves with this extension, because I think you and I were getting a little too excited about Jordan Love too there back when he was first emerging. We're like, oh boy, here he comes, but not so fast. If you look at his cap hit's honestly not that bad. I think he's going to be there for the next 2 seasons, but in 2027, Packers have an out. They could easily cut him and save some money there. They could do a post-June 1st release, save $5.7 million. I'm nervous for Love. I wouldn't extend him. All right, so for number 4, we've got quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. Joe, what are your thoughts there? Extend or not extend for Tua?
Yeah, I am not extending Tua between the injury risk and the concussions.
You were someone who didn't care about the concussion. You said all along it wasn't a big deal. Now you're saying it's a big deal?
I understand. And I wasn't wrong. That the year that I was saying I wasn't worried about it, he played all the games. It didn't happen. But then just seeing how he continues to play, and it's not so much now getting sacked. He's worked on that. But when he runs, he's still such a competitor. that he leads head first and still is putting himself in danger. And then you got the Mike McDaniel factor. I don't know how much longer he's going to be there either. And if he's not there to be with Tua, then I fear for him.
Well, I'm with you. I wouldn't extend him either. I'm with you. I think Mike McDaniel's on a hot seat, but also, Tyreek Hill's getting older, and I think Tua has benefited greatly because of his yard after the catch ability. We're going to be talking about Jaylen Waddle later, but there haven't been a lot of pieces beyond Hill that they've really been able to add to this offense. So Tua's, and if you look at the contract, Tua really only has to be there for 2 years, this year and next year, and then they could get out of it. So I wouldn't be surprised. So I would not extend Tua. So for number 5, we've got quarterback Dak Prescott of America's team. Joe, you just recently signed to a contract extension. I'd be curious to hear if you're starting to have a little buyer's remorse here.
Well, hard to say I don't have buyer's remorse, Steve, just because, I extended him. Then first year that I have him with the extension, he has the injury. But I think I'd still be willing to extend him. He's still going to be in Dallas until at least 2027. They got CeeDee Lamb under contract with him. As long as he stays healthy, I think he's got the potential to still be good at quarterback. And if you're looking to extend him off of the bad season, could get him at a cheaper rate. But I'm structuring this extension to where I could also get rid of him in a couple of years as well.
Which you did that even last year, right. And that was a caveat for you. Yeah, I wouldn't extend him. I'm very concerned. I mean, he's going to be 32 years old coming up. He's not getting any younger. And who does he have to work with? I know he's got CeeDee Lamb, but am I that confident in now head coach Brian Schottenheimer, which was kind of a wild card head coaching signing? And, Jerry Jones just got to get out of being a general manager. He's meddling too much as an owner. It's really hindering the team. Before we know it, the Cowboys, it'll be like one of the teams that is like the last time that they made the Super Bowl. It's going to be like however many years ago. Cowboys are I don't want to say they're a joke. I think that might be strong, but I just feel like
he runs it. They are a joke of a franchise because he doesn't care really about the product on the field. He just cares about them staying relevant in the news, and he's putting butts in seats, and that's really all he cares about is making the money.
All right, well, you said it, not me.
Yeah.
All right, so for number 6, we're going with the darling of fantasy football for quite some time, running back Christian McCaffrey of the San Francisco 49ers. I think for some, it was quite a surprise that he received an extension, and what do you know, he had all those injuries. Joe, what are your thoughts on Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, even as great as he's been for fantasy, I just can't justify extending him. I'm really nervous about this upcoming season with him, in the injury and the calf injury. I just don't. They say that thing can just. I think they could nag him the rest of his career. So I'm very nervous about him from a fantasy standpoint. He's 27, so as these running backs get closer to 30, it becomes even more troublesome.
So you feel like he has like a scarlet letter basically now, like he's toast.
I don't know if he's like toast, but I mean, there is a chance. They just say how much the calf injury can just pop up at any time, even though he's rested it and he's already been an injury-prone player. He's just got they've just utilized him so much, and he's such an important part that I'm nervous about him.
He's 29 years old. He could effectively be more of a change of pace back because they may want to limit his carries. He may not be getting the amount of workload that we're accustomed, seeing out of McCaffrey. I would agree. I wouldn't extend him either because I think you're going to have to pay a pretty penny, even though you missed out on that last year, and I don't think it's worth it. So I'd pass. So for number 7, we've got running back Rhamondre Stevenson of the New England Patriots. What are your thoughts on Stevenson, Joe?
Yeah, I've never been really much of a Rhamondre Stevenson guy. I would not be looking to extend him, and I think the Patriots will go ahead and with this stacked draft class, they're probably going to bring in another running back, and that could easily steal the show from Rhamondre. I've never been convinced that he's that great of a back. He's just got so much volume to make him fantasy relevant. And, we know the Josh McDaniels system and the Patriots system is to use multiple backs. So if he's not going to be that bell cow guy, you really don't want him.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely pass on him as well. I don't like the McDaniels hire at offensive coordinator. He had a lot of fumbling issues last year. If you look at the contract, it's deceiving because he's, it was a 4-year extension. But right now his cap hit's $5.3 million and his dead cap is $6 million. He could easily be cut after this at the end of this year. And who even knows if he goes to another job. So that 4 years is deceiving. I'm not extending him either. Now, another running back who received a pretty lengthy extension, a 4-year one as well, running back Chuba Hubbard of the Carolina Panthers. What do you think there, Joe?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I might be willing to extend Chuba Hubbard. I mean, he was coming off of a really solid year, and it's just interesting. The Panthers chose to give him the extension, especially after drafting Jonathan Brooks. And what do you know? He's hurt again with another ACL injury. So if the Panthers believe in Chuba Hubbard this much to give him that extension, he's a young back. I think I got to have faith in him to also extend him.
Boy, this is a tough one. I don't think I would, but I don't blame you if you do. Again, the 4 years is deceiving. The Panthers could really only keep him for 1 year, and next year his cap hit $6.6 million with a dead cap of $4.5. If they did a post-June 1st release, they get $4.8 million in savings. So he could very well be on his way out after 1 year. Now, he was very productive in the Dave Canales system, and so it makes me intrigued by him. But you might have to pay quite a bit for him because of how good he was last year. So I think I'd pass. For number 9, we've got running back Alvin Kamara of the New Orleans Saints. Hard to believe this guy keeps playing, but honestly, I think this extension might just be the fact because the Saints are in such a horrible cap situation. They just have to keep kicking the can down the road. So might as well give it to, at the time, 29-year-old Alvin Kamara. So what are your thoughts there, Joe?
Yeah, just given his age, I just can't justify extending Alvin Kamara. He's a highly productive player, but he's also somebody that I'd kind of like to just have on like continuous 1-year deals or a short-term deal rather than giving him an extension. As the Saints could also just, there's a potential out here 2025. So they're not saying it's not likely to happen. That's why they gave him the extension, was for the cap reasons. But there's just, I don't know, the Saints, nobody really wants that job. They're kind of in limbo here. I don't like this situation.
Their situation, honestly, might be the worst in football. And the reason being is because the cap is so bad. They say cap isn't real. It's real. And honestly, Alvin Kamara, look at his contract. He's got a bunch of void years added to it. Even if they wanted to cut it, even though it says the potential out, even if you want to cut him, they're not getting any savings. So right, I would not be bringing him on. Who even knows who the head coach is? Maybe Kellen Moore, but even then, we don't know what's happening
right now.
Yeah, no, thank you. All right, how about number 10, running back David Montgomery of your Detroit Lions, Joe?
Yeah, I would not extend David Montgomery.
Really?
I mean, he's gonna by the time this next season rolls around, he's gonna be 28. He's a guy that's kind of battled through injuries. And I think the Lions really need to start giving Jahmyr Gibbs more carries and more touches, maybe rely less on David Montgomery. So he's not a guy that I'd be looking to extend.
I wouldn't either. If you look at the contract, the Lions could effectively move off him at any time. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays one more year with the Lions, and after that, they decide to cut their losses. I don't know. Maybe, he's starting to break down a little bit. He's had a couple injuries. Now, I could see him also playing a little bit later in their career, and him being that, Sonic and Knuckles combo. But I wouldn't extend him either. Another wily veteran here, Joe, running back James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals. Again, an older running back. You don't normally see these guys getting second, third contracts, receiving a 2-year extension. What are your thoughts on Conner?
Yeah, he's an interesting one. I don't think I would extend him. I think, again, he's just somebody that I'd like to have on a short-term deal. I guess you could extend him maybe 1 or 2 years, but I don't think I would, even though for the one of the first years he played pretty much the full season last year. Still looked good. Trey Benson doesn't really seem to be a factor, but just given his age and his role, I can't justify extending him.
This is a glorified 2-year deal. It's really a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
I would expect him being on the team for 1 year, and then I think after that he may be fantasy irrelevant, whether he retires or doesn't sign somewhere or is in a backup role. Don't sign him. Don't extend him. Not worth it. I think the amount of money that they give up to get him, I think it's deceiving. So did well last year. Give him a lot of credit, but I wouldn't extend him. Last running back we got here, running back Joe Mixon of the Houston Texans was traded from the Bengals, then got that lengthy extension from the Texans. What say you, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I can't justify extending him. He's going to cost a lot, being that he had a really good year, even though he fell off in the second half of the year. Be interesting to see what happens with this Houston Texans offense, with them moving on from changing offensive coordinators, changing the offensive philosophy. But he just the guy, had it going to be 29 by the time season rolls around, just can't justify giving him an extension.
Very similar to what I said about James Conner, would not extend him. Right now it's a 3-year deal. He has 2 years left. It's a glorified 2 years left. It's really only 1 year. They could save at least, I think, $8 million in cap space if they decide to cut Joe Mixon next year. I think they probably do. Wouldn't be surprised, again, with his running back class, that they bring somebody in and that makes it even worse for him. So definitely not extend. Let's head over to the wide receivers. Talk to one of the guys you like here, Joe. And that's going to be wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk of the San Francisco 49ers, now coming off the injury. What say you, Joe?
Yeah, I think I'd be willing to extend Brandon Aiyuk coming off the injury, because I think you'll get that discount. And the San Francisco 49ers offense is gonna need Brandon Aiyuk. Deebo Samuel's future there is uncertain. So I think there's a chance that, he's at least going to be under contract here until 2027. With the San Francisco 49ers. So I'll take it and give him that extension.
I've never been as big a fan as Aiyuk as you are, so this won't come to a surprise. I would not extend him. I would rather prioritize over other players. I think the 49ers are slightly in disarray right now. What are they going to do with Brock Purdy? He's coming up on it. Are they going to sign him to a massive deal or not? You've got aging veterans like Deebo Samuel, George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey. This roster is starting to turn over. The window that they had, I think, is coming just slammed shut. And we heard before that there was rumors that either Deebo or Brandon Aiyuk, one of them, are definitely going to be traded this offseason. We'll be interested to see if that comes to fruition. Might like Aiyuk better.
Debo's going to be the one that's more easily traded.
Because of the injury, you're saying?
Well, no, just because, probably a more favorable contract to be able to trade.
All right, next player we're going to be talking about here is wide receiver DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. Forgot about this one. Kind of flew under the radar, signing some additional years. What are your thoughts on DJ Moore here, Joe?
Yeah, I would go ahead and extend DJ Moore. I think there's Ben Johnson coming over to the Bears offense, see if he can get Caleb Williams to kind of just be playing on time, play within the offense. And I don't think it's likely they bring Keenan Allen back. I think there's plenty of room for DJ Moore and Roma Dunze to be able to have success in this offense.
Yeah, ultimately, I agree with you. I would extend them as well. I think that you've got the creativity now of Ben Johnson as the play caller. Caleb is definitely talented. It just, can he rein it himself in and not play hero ball?
Right.
And Keenan Allen, I agree with you. I don't think he'll be back. So it's really going to be DJ Moore and Roma Dunze. I think both of them can be supported. And honestly, DJ Moore didn't have that great of a year, so you might not have to pay that much to get him. So I think I would do that as well. At number 15, we've got wide receiver A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. Thoughts on him, Joe?
Yeah, man, he's a tough one. It does, might be contrary belief, but I wouldn't be extending A.J. Brown. There's a potential out for him in 2027 for him to be under contract. So he's possibly only with the Philadelphia Eagles the next couple of years here. And I just these bigger bodied guys like that, as they get to age 30, kind of worry about them kind of wearing down, even though AJ Brown really hasn't shown signs of it. I'd rather have him just on, a shorter term deal and not necessarily give him a multi-year extension.
I think I would ultimately extend him. I think he's going to stay in Philadelphia. I know there's rumors that he's going to go elsewhere. I just don't see it. His cap hit is immense. You're looking at a dead cap of $61 million. I understand his cap hit is only $17.5 million. But if he is going to get traded, in my mind, he's not going to get traded until after June 1st. Because if you do it before June 1st, I think they have like negative $13 million that the Eagles would eat as dead cap. Unless they can negotiate that, That would be a different story. I know there's big rumors of Vrabel trying to reconnect with A.J. Brown. So if he stays in that system, I think A.J. Brown is the alpha there. I think he's going to have at least two. I'd say a shorter term extension, maybe a 3-year extension. But I wouldn't extend him a long period of time, but I think short while is okay. Well, let's talk about his teammate, wide receiver DeVonta Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles. Interestingly enough, there was all that chatter around Jamar Chase and whether he got the extension. People are like, well, it's kind of early. Well, let's not forget DeVonta Smith and Jamar Chase were both drafted in the first round of that draft, and they got it done with DeVonta Smith still on that rookie deal. So what are your thoughts on DeVonta Smith?
Yeah, no, DeVonta Smith, I'd be willing to go ahead and give him the extension. He's more under contract for another 3 years at least before they have a potential out on his deal. He's also a year, he's a younger player as well, and he's still been productive. So I'd have more confidence in extending him over A.J. Brown.
I don't think I would extend him, honestly. I think he's been second fiddle in that offense, and once A.J. Brown starts to get a little bit older and he no longer is a part of the team's plans, do they bring in somebody else to be that alpha? Can he take over as the alpha? It's interesting. I mean, even Saquon Barkley's older, so, right now this is a very short-term window as to what this team looks like. It's hard to know what the future holds, but I think you have to pay quite a bit for him, and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I think he kind of, to your point, I think he does. I don't think he could be a wide receiver one. I think he kind of does need an alpha. So if A.J. Brown does move on, I think they'd have to bring somebody else in.
Well, and the big thing, too, I was disappointed. I was hearing all this chatter that he was going to be in for this breakout year because of the way that Kellen Moore was going to use him on a slot and all this stuff. Never really happened. So to me, I think he's just...
I never really saw them. The problem is they don't have a true wide receiver to put him in this slot, I feel like.
No. All right, next guy we're going to be talking about, former Michigan man, Joe, wide receiver Nico Collins of the Houston Texans. What say you about him?
Yeah, it's interesting. I am going to extend him. Obviously, it wouldn't be anything long-term, as he's only really guaranteed under contract the next couple of years here with the Texans. But him and C.J. Stroud just have such a rapport, and he really is that go-to guy. And given the way the roster is, I don't really see that much of that changing, especially with Tank Dell not being able to, potentially missing this whole upcoming year as well.
It's kind of crazy if you look at the contract in the 2026 season. So a year from now, they could cut him and they could save like $16 million. So
yeah, I see that
he has 3 years, but it's very deceiving. I don't know why they would though, because he's been so talented. I would see maybe him getting even more money later on. This is a very interesting deal. I think I'm betting on the rapport that Stroud and Nico have. So as a result, I would extend him. But the contract is somewhat concerning because if the Texans ever want to be like, hey, you're falling off, we don't like your conditioning, whatever, they could say, see you later. And then it's like, well, now what with Nico Collins? So it's a little bit more risky than you think.
No, yeah, it is risky. I mean, that did go into factor, but I just think he means too much to that team right now for them to potentially move on from him.
All right, next guy we're going to be talking about here is wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, formerly of your Broncos, Joe, now on the Browns. What say you about him?
It's a tough one.
It's tough for you? Really? Wow, you've changed your mind on him.
Well, I think I could go ahead and give him like a 3-year extension, possibly with a 2-year to kind of match what he is with the Cleveland Browns. And this is because I think the Browns have enough on Deshaun Watson to finally move on from him. I think with that whole he retore his Achilles, he was doing other things that he wasn't supposed to. So I think that breaches his contract. I think that's going to create that avenue for them to finally move on. And we've just seen it with basically anybody but Deshaun Watson and somebody capable of running that Stefanski offense. These wide receivers can excel. And Jerry Jeudy's always been able to get open. Just none of the Broncos quarterbacks could seem to give him the ball, but Winston certainly succeeded with that.
Very interesting. I would not extend him. I think he showed a lot of flashes, but who's the quarterback, Joe? I mean, if it's not Deshaun Watson, fine, but who is it going to be? Is it Kirk Cousins coming in? Is it going to be, Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders? I don't know. That makes me nervous.
I simply don't think it matters, and I think that's just how bad Deshaun Watson's been.
So you think that Jerry Jeudy is quarterback proof? I mean, he didn't really show that in Denver.
No, but none of the Broncos quarterbacks were just willing to play within the offense. And I think he's always been able to get open quickly. It's just a matter of finding him as soon as he gets open. And I think if they get more of a veteran type of quarterback, I think they'll be able to do that.
I will say this: Jerry Jeudy will be on the roster for the next 2 to 3 years,
right?
Unless they trade him. But if they keep the same general manager and head coach, which it seems like they will be, then he's not going anywhere. I don't see they traded for him, gave a decent amount to the Broncos. I don't see why they would then trade him again. So ultimately, that's a safer bet because in the contract standpoint, they'd have to eat quite a bit of dead cap if they're going to try to prematurely get rid of him. So the next guy we're going to be talking about here is wide receiver Jaylen Waddle of the Miami Dolphins. Spoke about Tua a little bit earlier. What say you about Waddle?
Yeah, I wouldn't be extending Jaylen Waddle, even though he's, on the younger side. He'll be 27 this year. I'm nervous about what's going to happen in Miami. And if Tyreek Hill's not going to be there, I don't think he's going to be able to step up and be the number one guy. He also just can't stay healthy. He's always got those nagging back injuries. And if Tua and McDaniel aren't there, what happens for him? So the instability around there just makes me too nervous to give him an extension.
Of all these players that we've been talking about, this to me is the epitome of fool's gold. And I would tell you, steer clear. I think that you see the potential, you see the speed, you see the possibility of even Tyreek Hill gone. You can make an argument of him now being the number one guy, getting all those targets. I just don't buy it. I just don't think he's going to be healthy. We don't even know what the future of this team looks like going forward. He's way too inconsistent. Let somebody else pay. This is the type of guy that I would want to hit the market, be defensive, and someone, even though he hasn't been good, someone's going to believe that they could have a huge bargain on this guy, and they're going to pay a decent amount of money for him, and they're going to regret it.
Yep.
All right, so number 20, our last guy, tight end. We wanted to throw in at least one tight end here. Tight end Pat Freiermuth of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Thoughts on him, Joe?
Yeah, he's kind of a tough one for me, just given the contract scenario. I mean, talking about Nico Collins, he's 1 year in, and Spotrac's listening a potential out for Freiermuth this year, where the Steelers could save a little over $4 million just this year by moving on from him. But I still think I would go ahead and give him an extension. I think at 27, I think he's interesting enough, and he's kind of showed flashes. And I wouldn't be scared if he does move away from the Steelers, because I think on different offenses, maybe they'll be able to utilize him more, and he might actually have a better chance to be more productive on a different team.
Yeah, I think for me, I ended up not extending him. It really comes down to your strategy, the tight end position. Do you want a difference maker or not? I don't think he can really be one. I think he's more of a tight end too. So depending on how much you have to pay for him, do you really want? I think it ultimately comes down to tight end strategy. If you're happy to have a guy like him who will flash sometimes, don't have to pay him all that much money, he might be your guy. I tend to think that you might want a little bit more of a difference maker. We're in a tight end premium league, so that might make a little bit more of a difference in my mind. But it's a position that when you have one of the more elite tight ends, now it didn't show last year, but it can. When you have an elite tight end, there can be a huge gap between me and the next opponent. So I'm not interested. To me, it's all or nothing, and he's kind of an in-between, and I don't want the in-between. I either want all, I'm paying top dollar, or I'm going scrapping, at the bottom of the barrel, hoping I strike gold.
Yeah, I just hope that as long as Russell Wilson's not the quarterback, I like Freiermuth, and you can get him cheap right now with the disappointing last year, and simply the fact of Russell Wilson isn't willing to throw it in the middle of the field. That's why I hated Freiermuth for this season. If Russell Wilson's out of there, I like Freiermuth even more.
Not to mention the contract is scary to me, because really the Pittsburgh Steelers could get rid of him anytime.
Right, but I think that could also be to his benefit.
So that does it for this episode. We talked about the top 20 recent NFL player extensions. Boy, we should have probably taken a breather, Joe. We just went through 20 players like that, lightning fast. But we said, should you extend them or should you not extend them in your dynasty salary cap leagues? We're going to be seeing some more extensions on the way. So make sure you keep a lookout on those, because they're going to be here before you know it, probably a little over a month away. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.